Ne-am întors așa cum v-am promis. Yannick Mooijman, alături de mine. Hi.
How are you? Good, very good. Thank you.
Great. How is GPeC SUMMIT up to now? How do you feel?
It has been good. This morning came in, had the opportunity to walk around, get a bit familiar with the setup. And then at 9:25 we started, I was on the first panel. So it was really,
what did you talk about on the panel?
The usual things like, how do we see market growth? What do we expect for peak? What is the influence of the Chinese competitors in the market? How big are they? What is their impact? What's the role of out of home? Is it growing? Yes or no? Lockers, put-out points, etc.
Okay. Yannick Mooijman is CEO of Cargus. So let's talk about Cargus.
Yeah,
How does Cargus evolution this year compare to the evolution of e-commerce market?
Very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nice to hear.
So to give you a feeling for it, we doubled our volume growth this year compared to the growth percentage. We doubled that. And from a revenue growth perspective, we did 1.5 times better than last year. So It's a pretty good success story. And, as a company, we have the goal to grow with 20% a year. And that is quite a stretch goal.
Better than expected, actually.
No, that's the plan.
Okay.
That's the plan for the next coming year. So we built a 5-year plan and a strategy. And we said, okay, where do we want to be? That requires 20% growth year on year. Now, in this market with less than 20% growth, because we talked about that this morning, I expect 13 to 15% growth in the market. That means you need to do better than the market. And that's not an easy task. But we're well on our way to actually get there. And in the month of June, we were actually getting very close with more than 17% year-on-year growth.
Pretty nice to hear that.
Yes. We're very happy about that.
How do you see the Romanian e-commerce market in 2024? And what should we expect in trends of future developments?
Yeah. What I see in this market is still very strong growth, so 13 to 15%. With that, I expect the growth this year to actually be slightly better than the growth that we had in 23 over 22. So that's positive. What I also see is the growth or the impact that the Chinese players have on this market, and not only on Romania, but all over Europe. Question is how big they are. There were all kinds of numbers going around this morning, but I would say it's substantial. I would work with about 10% at the moment, and it's growing fast. Now that will obviously have an impact on this market because these are big players with deep pockets that also are following a factory to consumer model, so they have relatively low cost. And they will start to affect other players in the market, local players that are less big in size, that are confronted with this new reality. So they need to figure out how they're going to tackle that.
And what are some categories that have known an above average growth this year?
Yeah, I would say the marketplaces, and then again also the Chinese. But also, for instance, very important in this context is the rise of Trendyol.
Really?
Yes. Partly owned by Alibaba, Turkish in nature.
Of course.
But they have the same advantage as the Chinese, which is they have access to this huge growth and production capability in the Turkish market that they can leverage like the Chinese do. And they want to conquer Europe. So they're coming. We're working with them already and very excited. Other is fast fashion. We see very good growth, and especially large brands that sell from other countries into Romania. Pharmacies are growing also. So Dr. Max, for instance, a customer of ours, growing at a rapid pace in this market. Shoes is another example. Home improvement. So that are, I would say, the categories that today are showing above market average growth.
And the main shifts that you actually noticed in terms of consumer behavior? If you
Yes.
can mention at least 3.
I can mention maybe 5. How about that?
Great, great.
So let's start with the number of internet users growing. So
Okay.
we get more and more internet users, and especially in the very young age category. TikTok is a
Oh
big
my God.
driver, and obviously the
everywhere.
Chinese with their campaigns, Chinese marketplaces drive that. The second thing that I would say is a trend from more expensive to cheaper. I think there are 2 reasons for that. Number one, the younger people have less deep pockets, so they buy cheaper stuff. But I think also still the inflation plays a role, and people are maybe more careful about how they spend their money. And we see clearly a trend from more expensive brands to cheaper brands. We also see that with our own customers.
Yeah.
I would say the omni-channel trend is an important one. So we believe that companies that approach the market with an omni-channel approach, meaning they have and stores and they sell online, are more successful than the ones that don't. Then we have the trend of sustainability, and sustainability in the context of fast fashion or fashion, where we see that there's a growing interest in vintage
Yes.
type of
Yes.
products, especially women in the age category of 18 to 30. And
Exactly.
companies like Vinted benefit from that and see their volumes. By the way, that's one that I didn't mention as one of the growth engines, but they are a force to
course.
keep in mind. And then the last one that I would say is payment by card. So what we see, especially with our CODs, cash on delivery, there we see an increase in the usage of cards for payment.
Now, let's talk about the Chinese players,
Yep.
because it's a pretty important aspect. How has this presence of Chinese players impacted the market, and what is Cargus doing to respond it?
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, it helped to grow the e-commerce market. I think we
Okay.
can all agree on that because they attracted people to go online and to buy, young people
Of course.
that maybe didn't do before. And if they are too young to buy themselves, they stimulate their parents to buy the products for
Exactly.
them. So maybe parents that didn't use the internet will now do or spend more. So that is clearly one trend. Overall, I think they also increased with that the e-commerce spend. So it might be that more money went from physical retail to actually online retail. And I think all those things are good, especially for a business like Cargus. It has also a downside. You hear a lot of discussions in the EU about fair level playing field.
Okay.
And import duties and things like that.
course.
Under 150 euros, you don't pay,
Yeah.
etc. And that's one aspect. Increased competition for the local Romanian players. And the big question is, how are they now going to respond? And that's where we get into the picture.
Okay, great.
Because the way we position us is actually that we are a partner for growth and a trusted advisor. That's what we want to be for our customers. That's why we want to differentiate ourselves. And we have a lot in our suites of solutions in order to help these customers. So one example is that we have created an e-commerce solutions team. That team will meet with you as customer and they will take a look at your website. That's the first step. And they say, okay, how is it structured? How do you show your products? What's your checkout process look like, etc. And we will give advice in terms of how to improve those things so that you improve the visits on your site and also the conversion rate. Then we offer solutions like Cargus Smart Hub that allows you to connect with all kinds of marketplaces, and not only in Romania. So nowadays we're connected to about 40 marketplaces throughout Europe. And actually, with a snap of a finger, you can connect to these marketplaces, actually upload your product portfolio, start to generate orders, turn the orders into shipments, and then communicate with the customer, send them a bill, etc. So these are fantastic tools for customers to extend their reach. Because now they are not only selling on their website, they are active on all these marketplaces, and they increase the chances of being seen and selling without having to spend a lot of money on advertising. So that is, let's say, one of the key things that we're doing. And on top of that, in order to support them, we're opening our international network. Because we think that it is very important that they don't only work in the Romanian market, but that they start to actually export to other countries. Yeah. And we can help them now because in October 1st, we opened our network to Romania, from Romania to Bulgaria and Greece.
Okay. So Bulgaria it's a great, and Greece up to now.
Up to now. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, in order to make that happen, we had to create a portfolio. We had to think about pricing. We had to do a lot on the technology side to create a good customer experience and to allow them to ship. That now has been built, and the rest is just adding countries now. So in the next half year, we plan to add, in fact, total Europe to the portfolio. I would say 6 to 9 months. So that means mid-year summer, we should have covered Europe. And our customers can then ship with Cargus to any country in Europe, supported by Cargus Smart Hub, as I just explained. So I think a great solution and a great way to actually effectively compete with the Chinese and others that are coming to this market and
seems very promising.
Rattle the cage.
Seems very promising. So you mentioned that the consumer experience, it's settled when it comes to Cargus International, right?
But there are other things we're doing when it comes to customer experience.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about. If you actually, what are the current trends in improving customer experience?
I will explain that from a Cargus perspective.
Exactly.
So the key thing we did this year, and this was a wish, it was something we worked on for a long time, had some struggles. And then beginning of this year, we started to work together with a company called Mediatel. And what we wanted to do was actually to change entirely the way we interact with customers, whether it's on the phone, whether it's via chat, whether it's email. And the struggle we always had in the old setup was that we couldn't recognize you when you had sent an email, and then later on you would call. We would not recognize it's the same person calling for the same issue.
Okay.
Right? And so what we did with Mediatel, we created our own omni-channel solution. First thing we did was we structurally improved the capacity that we could handle. So incoming lines, as well as how many people can be in a waiting line. And then we put a smart, what we call IVR system in place. This is the system that will start talking to you and say, hey, what is it that you want to do? Depending on your choice, we either help you electronically and solve your problems, give you an answer to the question you have. Like, for instance, where is my package? When can I expect it? Will it be delivered today? We give you an answer. If you don't get your answer, we now connect you through with one of our people. And that person has all information on your history on their screen. So if you have called us for other cases, other questions, issues, claims, concerns before, we will see your history. So you don't have to tell us again what you're calling for, what the problem was. And we all know how annoying that is if we run into that, right? And then it also allows us to quickly shift between. So you might call, we have taken notice of your problem, and then we hand it over and we continue through mail, and all will go in a smooth way, so that actually as a consumer, you or business customer, you don't experience all the hiccups anymore. It's a smooth process. You get faster answer, better to the point.
This is probably the best news for every client.
Exactly. And we made it happen in a very short period of time, because we started at the beginning of the year and with the idea, and then the concept and building, and we implemented in the summer, and now we're fully live and up and running.
Great
So
to hear that.
that's a very good thing. The second thing I already talked about, and that is the experience
Yeah.
customers have in international and the things we're doing there and to expand. As a matter of fact, the big thing we're going to do next year, besides adding destinations for Romanian exporters, is that we're going to do the reverse. So
Okay.
we're going to create export opportunities for all other shippers in Europe. So Polish people shipping to Romania, Spanish people shipping to Greece. So we will start to connect the dots across Europe. That's a huge undertake.
Of course.
But a great experience, not only for the Romanian shippers, but also for those all over Europe, which ultimately we see Europe and also beyond as our, let's say, sandbox in which we want to play. Yeah. And the last thing I would say in the context of improving customer experience is what we do in the digital world.
Okay.
So we took a critical look at ourselves and the tools that we offer and the customer experience online. And we, whether it's our website or a mobile app, I would say our mobile app that we launched 2 years ago is state of the art. I think there are improvements needed, but it is in a very good
Exactly.
space. What we need is improvements on the web. And so we have built a 2-year program of where every 3 weeks we release upgrades to the customer experience on the web. And we will launch that. We started at the beginning of this year, and we think we will be done somewhere summer next year. And this will help especially smaller customers. We call them micro and small customers. So these are customers with 10 shipments a month all the way up to 300, to actually have a much better experience and get a lot more bells and whistles next to the regular shipping experience.
Yannick, your information was priceless. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your presence here. Hope you felt very well up to now, and I hope you will enjoy in the future of GPeC Summit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.